Collecting in the big 2025, well, it kind of sucks. Not only is everything way more expensive than it was, say, 8 years ago, but the culture surrounding it has kind of been taking a nosedive, from being more about enjoying the items and the hobby of collecting to a hyper-consumerist who's who with a heavy hand of hustle culture and a dash of gambling addiction. Alright, I know all collecting is about consuming. It's kind of like the peak of consumerism. You like something so much, you want to hoard them and arrange them in cute little sets on your shelf. But I don't know, every time I see some sort of viral trend or like dive into some niche subculture of something, it feels like somebody wants to sell me something. Yeah, Labubus. This has kind of become the hottest thing lately, both in like the mainstream everyone's going out to buy it kind of way, and the everyone is also making fun of it kind of way. Short rundown on these little guys. This might feel redundant because everyone's been talking about them, but I don't want anyone to miss out on any context here. So this Chinese company going by the name of PopMart started in 2010 in Beijing, selling collectible figurines in what are known as blind boxes. What is a blind box, you ask? Gambling. I mean, it's basically gambling. You buy an item from a set, hoping to get a specific one shown on the back, have a sliver of a chance of pulling a rare one, and then get very disappointed when you've spent your money not getting exactly what you wanted, or, well, winning. So PopMart expands in 2020 to the US, New Zealand, Australia, UK, blah blah blah, and I guess just flew under the radar until recently this year, where they had a huge takeoff after the viral success of Labubus, this fuzzy monster-like creature, which when these first took off, I was really confused, like these had been around forever and people are just now noticing them. But then I realized they weren't Momochichis, a Japanese brand which have in fact been around since the late 70s. Harry Potter, Obama, Sonic. Anyways, these little gremlin creatures have become the sensation of the internet as of lately, calling back to the Stanley Cup storm we had a few years back. It's the new hip thing that really only seems as popular as it's becoming because it's got the same sort of everyone is doing it kind of mentality. Honestly, both of these trends feel a lot different than trends of the past, but maybe I'm just like not the right demographic. The viral trends that I can remember in my lifetime coming from someone who is a elder Gen Z is like Beanie Babies, Pokemania, Silly Bands, Fidget Spinners, Pokemania 2, Electric Boogaloo, Stanley Cups, and now Labubus. Maybe I'm missing some, feel free to let me know in the comments, but I feel like there was quite a few years in between these. However, the Stanley Cups and Labubus seem to have come out of nowhere really quick, like right after each other. Like with all of these items, there was an immense level of hype, leading to the scarcity factor and the FOMO kicking in, forcing everyone to kind of get invested, even if they didn't really care. I think the difference really boils down to like the internet and these fads. Before, somebody had to be out in the fields, you know, pushing these things to Martha at the PTA meeting, saying it was the next big thing. Real ground level putting themselves in danger to psyop all of us into buying Pincer the Lobster. Whereas nowadays, if a company wanted to push a product onto us, they could just send 100 influencers the product as well as some cash to push it into the mainstream. Once that ball gets rolling, the consumers typically do the rest. That's my real issue with it. It seems really inauthentic. All fads are, in a way, once everyone starts doing it because it's trendy. But like, these seem extra superficial from the get-go. And I get it, Labubus are cute, I'm not gonna act like I don't see the appeal, but these seem less like things people actually wanted to get, and more like, here's a status symbol to show that you're tapped in. Which creates this weird dichotomy between the consumer and the collectible. The hobby of collecting shouldn't leave you feeling disappointed because you didn't trample someone, or wait 24 hours outside not to miss some special item. Labubu has an extra layer to it with the blind boxes. Not only do you have the fear of missing out on getting an item, but you could just buy the product and not get the item that you wanted, incentivizing you to buy more to get the item that you want. I don't know if collecting should make you feel bad for getting an item you wanted to collect. It just wasn't the soy milk one. Not to mention the massive emergence of scalpers in almost anything nowadays. People who will buy up a huge stock of something people want just to turn around and resell it at a higher price because there is a limited supply. adding on to the FOMO. Fidget spinners are kind of a unique example because the culture surrounding them was kind of memed on. They weren't like this cool thing to own. They were kind of cringe. The difference was they were functional and fun to play with. Shout out all the people who hoarded fidget spinners to make a quick buck. Because fidget spinners are the first time I really recall this sort of newly emerging hustle culture forming around one of these trends. Like, yes, every gas station I went to also had silly bands when that was big. It ended up in major stores, and almost everyone's school ended up banning it. But like, fidget spinners? Oh my god. I would see people set up stands in parking lots making banners, like commercially made banners, to unload fidget spinners from a truck. Every gas station had them, and then you had kids at school who were just dealing them out of their backpacks like they were slinging drugs. I would attribute a lot of this because they were so easily manufactured, like there wasn't a single company making them, much like how silly bands ended up towards the end there. I guess people were just remiss during the time of silly bands and tried to make up for it on the next fad, which brings me to my own collection. Someone who's watched my other content right now is probably saying, "You're a hypocrite." Yeah. Also, I don't really mind what Disney has done with Star Wars. Now that I've got the rage bait out of the way, let's talk about Pokemon. The first sort of Pokemania in the late 90s and 2000s is so much different than its sequel circa 2020, but I mean, you could also argue Pokemon Go kind of kicked this off, but I don't really think so. I started buying packs towards the end of my senior year of high school. Again, a little post Pokemon Go, and while yes, I think there was a sort of buzz getting made again, a culture of trading, ripping packs, collecting, and just a general interest you could feel reigniting, it was nothing like the ravenous horde who'd come once there was blood in the water. For some reason, it was like a switch was flipped. Surely due in part to Logan Paul's investment in the scene, buying a $150,000 Charizard holo. The moment people sensed there was serious money to be made, Pokemon 2 Electric Boogaloo kicked off. The time before this had seemed like, yeah, people are sort of getting into Pokemon again. Then it was just like, wow, everyone's really into Pokemon right now. And then the scalpers started to show up. It was harder to get packs. People would hoard them and resell after leaving people who wanted to collect sort of stuck on the curb. The new influx of trendy collectors would also dwindle the supply down, which has kind of honestly entirely vanished, instead leaving either genuine collectors or what I would describe as the hustle culture buyers. These are the scalpers, the people ripping packs just to turn a profit, the ones setting up business off of this, dealing in the streets, or setting up these massive stands at conventions. It really felt a lot less like your normal TCG collecting, where you'd end up in some card shop or comic book store hosting a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament with just a unbelievable stench, sorting through a large binder full of holos, or browsing the limited graded cards they had through a glass case, with the occasional group card convention thrown in there. The best way I found to rationalize it in my mind is it's more like shoe collecting culture than a card game culture. Like, you have genuine fans who are out here, but it's become such a mainstream appealing thing that it's almost trendy still to do it. It's almost even cooler to be a vendor in it. There's an adept level of knowledge you need to have to both collect and sell. It's an incredibly nerdy thing to be this into, but like, societally, it has kind of been deemed really cool because of how mainstream it is. And if someone sees you selling Pokemon cards as opposed to like Star Trek figurines, it's not as nerdy. It kind of has that like 2016 hype beast musk to it now, but instead of like SB Dunk Dog Walkers, it's like 151 Charizard. Most of this stuff I have has either been gifted or, in this case, I pulled it. Yeah, so I pulled this card from a 151 set. It is the most expensive card in this incredibly popular set. And like, I don't really care. I like the art for 151. I like that it was the original Pokemon I grew up with, and I really just wanted Poliwhirl because he's like my favorite. I just got really lucky. Similar to shoe culture, this could be somebody's favorite shoe. It's Charizard, which always sell better because it's a lot of people's favorite and he's super mainstream, like a front-facing character from Pokemon. To me though, it's not really anything. It's cool, I guess, but instinctively I'm always just like, yeah, it's a really expensive card that I could likely sell because the market works like that. which I think is the problem with Pokemon. The culture surrounding it always has this money first mentality. The market is always viable if you don't like something. I wasn't like, whoa, cool, Charizard card. I was like, cool, 100 plus card if I ever decided that I needed that money. Which maybe that's just a me problem. I'll succeed that it might be. But when you have a base of people split heavily between like fans collecting and hustle culture people collecting, and you're constantly having problems obtaining these items because of these people, while also watching them make bank off of your hobby, I find it hard to believe that doesn't sway your opinion on purchasing actions, thinking you could probably make some money from something you like. I'm just saying, anyone who's ever dabbled in more illicit experiences, when you're sitting there picking up the goods from your town's local disappointment, every single one of you has had that thought pop up in the back of your head like, I could probably do that. Another thought that you can't control, did you know that humans are hardwired to like cute things? A peer-reviewed study by Trends in Cognitive Sciences found that when we see infantile features, our orbitofrontal cortex goes crazy with activity, as opposed to when we see non-infantile features. The orbitofrontal cortex also helps us make reward-based decisions, like, I don't know, buying a trendy infantile object. Surely the bug people in marketing wouldn't use this nurturing human instinct against us to push more products. I don't know, something to think about when you're buying products that look like babies. Speaking of babies, here's what I actually enjoy collecting. Garbage Pail Kids. Yes, I know it is still technically gambling, because nothing is guaranteed to be in the packs, but God, I just love buying them. And you know, I can actually buy them because aside from the limited time print-on-demand releases they do online from time to time, they're there if you want them. I've got a few. They don't really release a ton of sets a year. It's been really 2 for a while, maybe 3. So I never really get a huge sense of FOMO when a set comes out because I normally have been waiting months for it already. And they're kind of immune to scalping because no one really cares that much about them. I swear, I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a Target or a Walmart just to see a 2-year-old set randomly brought out. And it's not like it's been sitting there. I checked the same few stores. No, someone pulled these from the back and recently stocked them. So I assume the back stock on them is probably massive. Hell, I get them on clearance a lot of the time. The community is so niche, it's mostly just collectors buying them because there's not a ton of resale value aside from the really old pieces, which are either kids from the 80s reliving their childhood or modern day collectors who just want a cool piece, which is kind of what collecting should be about, and it seems like Topps, who owns GPK, understands this. Because the rare cards are very unique. It's basically centered around hobbyist collectors as opposed to resale collectors. Cards come in 2 different names, sometimes a rare third, but also can come in borders. It's still the same card though. These can get rarer and rarer until they're numbered, showing the limited amount that exist. Everything from the easily obtainable green to the very rare fool's gold border. Or they may vary depending on what type of border that set has. You also have the limited artist autograph cards. These are cards autographed by, well, the artist. And then you have what I think to be the coolest thing. These are the one-of-one sketch cards, signed and actually drawn by the artist listed. Sometimes these can come in special shapes or foldouts or even full set pieces. I think these are such a cool, unique thing to pull, as no one else can have this card or even know it exists. You can literally see the ink on this card. I got this one from an older 2019 Halloween set, one that I debated opening and just holding on to. Had I never opened it, no one but the artist who worked on it would have known it existed. But it's uniquely mine. No one else can have this exact card unless I sell it, which is such a juxtaposition to the rare 151 Charizard. Sure, I got lucky pulling any of these, but there's more of these out in the world. Still rare, no doubt, but these are mine and mine only. Also, you can get the actual printer plates used to manufacture the cards. I've never gotten one. That's like something I've really wanted to get my hands on at some point, because what other card sets are giving away parts from manufacturing as rares? Once again though, it's still gambling. It's still got FOMO elements to it, and it still has rarity that could drum up that hustle culture mentality. But I do find this to be a better example of how card collecting should be done as opposed to Pokemon. But they're not even my favorite things that I have. My favorite things are the random little side collections, like my weirdly growing collection of old tech or my half-hearted Simpsons collection, all things I've either been gifted or stumbled into browsing a thrift shop or going to a big box store thoroughly surprised at the deep cut, which is what I think collecting should be more about. I feel like the internet has been both a gift and a curse for collecting. Well, yes, it is awesome that I can open eBay up right now and find a Simpsons Homer beer bottle opener and have it sent to my door. I'd honestly prefer naturally coming across it. The joy of just mindlessly browsing a thrift shop because I want to be out in the world and getting excited when I find an item I can add to my collection, as opposed to just filling my collection. There's a staggering number of bugs in the world, approximately 1.4 billion for every human. Bugs be hella mainstream, but like, if I'm gonna collect bugs, I think the fun is in going outside and collecting them, right? Because if not, the end goal is I just have a bunch of bugs in my house. When my guests show up, they go, "Wow, you have a lot of bugs in your home." And then I go, "Yeah, got them from Amazon." And that ends there. Because any item you want, if you have the money, you could probably get right now on the internet. But I could also just not have as many bugs in my house and maybe have a cooler story behind the ones that I do have. Now let me flip it. Sometimes the internet is actually the most amazing thing ever if you're into something incredibly niche. For example, in Japan in the early 90s, Sega was putting some really cool plushies in the UFO catchers. Specifically, a quirky pet game from the Dreamcast called Seaman, a virtual pet game where you talk to your tadpole to frog-faced friends and keep him alive through his evolution. There exists incredibly rare plushies of these things that were only available in Sega-branded UFO catchers during a very specific period in the 90s. I've been both obsessed with this game and these plushies since I learned about them. They are my holy grail of plushie to own. Problem is, I don't live in Japan. The likelihood I would ever possibly stumble across such a rare and niche item might actually be zero. But I saw them for sale once on eBay. It was way out of my financial ability to buy them, but if I was in a spot to blow that money, I 100% would have, because it might have been my only shot of actually getting one. When the price point is either this extremely high listing on eBay from Japan, or likely an extremely expensive trip to Japan where I might not even find it, I would probably take the eBay listing if it showed up again, because I love Seaman so much.
I would really not be screaming that at the top of your lungs.
Speaking of Japan and retro gaming, you. Game collecting is kind of an impossible hobby nowadays, especially when it comes to retro. And the older we all get, the more the games we grew up with are wiggling out of an affordable price point. Gaming is such a different sort of collecting vibe because at the end of the day, these things are meant to be played as opposed to something that sits on a shelf. But like at these price points, I'ma have to pass. And I get it, all this stuff is long past production. I agree they should be seen as higher ticket items if you want to own it. There's literally some scarcity to it, as what is out there is all that exists. And as physical media has sort of taken a back seat in favor of owning everything digitally, or well, I guess renting, there is kind of a collecting culture that is formed around physical copies of games, new and old, as this luxury item. Hell, if you want the PS5 with a disc drive, it costs you more. But like, what if they don't re-release these games? I highly doubt I'm getting a Dog's Life remaster anytime soon. A man can dream though. In that case, this is really the only way you can play these games.
Do what you want.
No, not yet. I used to trade my old PS2 games in for NES games at my local gaming store. Those same NES games are going for triple or in some cases quadruple what I was getting them for post PS3 launch. And nowadays, those PS2 games are following quickly behind. Silent Hill 2 has been hovering around upwards of $100 for a while now. The sequel to one of the most influential horror games of its time, and in its own right, also immensely influential. The only way to play it was to own a copy. Thankfully, we got a remake this past year, but also, this isn't the same game. It's the same game, but it's not the same game, you know? If you want to experience that, you gotta shell out the dough.
Do what you want.
No, still not ready yet, dude. Thankfully, a lot of the really influential retro games have been ported to services like Switch Online with Mother or things like the Mega Man collection. This seems to really just be an issue as we move closer to the PS2 era becoming more and more retro. Silent Hill 3, Futurama, Fatal Frame, Haunting Grounds are all going for pretty intense prices nowadays. Also, one of you doesn't belong here. It's very possible these will all get some sort of remake or digital release. I mean, Fatal Frame already has. But no one is re-releasing Futurama. Valid, yeah. The game's trash. But also, fuck you? I'm entitled to play that game. Why is it $176? I can go Silent Hill 3? Ren and Stimpy for Super Nintendo. Silent Hill? Stimpy. I don't think either should be this much, but these are the only legal, accessible ways I can play these games.
Do what you want, cause a pirate.
Yeah, okay, we can talk about it now. Pirating, emulation, you wouldn't download a goddamn car. You know the story. In 20 years, the options to play the weird licensed Muppet Cruise game from your childhood is spend $100 on it plus the console, pray for a remake, or the final option, break the law, go to jail, go directly to jail, do not collect your Muppet Party Cruise gameplay. It's a little redundant. Thankfully, there is an exploitable gray area for games. But if they ever decided to patch that, what happens then? Nintendo removed tons of retro games when they closed down the eShop. If they don't provide them, there's no way to experience that aside from collecting. I mean, that's really the main argument for all of these, right? What happens when the supply of these items gets cut off and you have no way to access the hobby you enjoy without dumping an absurd amount of money into it? It's kind of the problem with all hobbies recently. Gaming is the perfect example in every regard of what's great about collecting and the awful aspects baked within it. You have the core of collecting, the reason you're doing it, the actual act of gaming, the hunt for the item, belonging to a community and having someone to share in your hobby, having something that can functionally represent a key piece of the things you enjoy, which I'd argue is a reflection of ourselves. Then you have the failing systems that are making it harder, the limited supply, with a refusal from the creators to renew it, playing in tandem to a greedy system designed to keep you hooked, always chasing the item you actually wanted, breeding an underbelly black market of those who bought the stock up, willing to sell it back to you at a higher price, fads that seem to go as quickly as they came, but they're so grandiose and around everything in your life, you feel left out for not joining in on them. Marketing techniques that are designed to induce a sense of missing out, convincing you to join even though you're just spending your own time and money, because they say it'll be gone soon. And at the end of all this good and bad spectrum of collecting, you have a company like PopMart who knows all of these things and is going to use every last one of them against you, so their quarterly numbers skyrocket.